So here's the next step. Pinky finger, rag, and then I hold this in this hand. So the very first thing that I do is I tap in all the edges, and it's kind of hard to see up here, but I'll see if I can get that done. All right, so what I want to do is I want to get all of these edges of the piece covered so there's no pink. I have painted in advance. This is just masking tape. I've painted the sides of this canvas black with a black acrylic, so that if all of this front paint matches up, butts up to it just right, then it has a very finished look to it. And I'm just going all the way around. Then what I'm going to do, this is kind of boring, but okay, we're getting there. Also, the other thing about that is if you don't leave it too glumpy, then it'll dry more even around the edges. Okay, now what we're going to do is the fun part. We're going to take and try to tap in edges. And I keep wanting to take this off here. So let me free this up here. Alright. I have a glare where I'm standing. So I'm going to take and I'm going to just tap where the colors come together. I don't want to, my goal is to get this pink covered. I don't like to, I think it's distracting when parts of the canvas show through. That is not everybody's opinion. So you don't have to do this exactly the way I do it, but this is why I do it. I want to make sure I've got a nice feel to this tapping. It's a really important step for me to kind of move the paint to where it needs to go. If there's a color that got colored up, sometimes you can actually pull it back out. Otherwise, you can move some of the colors a little bit. Pretty soon here see, I can't see that high up there. All right, so I don't want to make one solid color anywhere necessarily, because you're going to get flat spots. So the key to it is just pop and pull, pop, pull. And if I'm sticking with this kind of sky part here, you'll notice that I kind of tapped in these purples into the blue. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit further down because I still have that glare right up here. Now what I'm doing with these pieces of cloud up here, they're not exactly the right color. We're not done yet though. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to arrange the paint so that it has similar feel to it, similar shape to it, a little bit of finesse to it instead of globs. And if, like, I can see this guy could use a little dark, I can steal from down here. I don't need it doesn't need to be entirely flat. In fact, from the side, you're going to see like a variation in the stroke because it's leaving that finger stroke. So when it catches the light, like you're walking down the hallway and you look from the side, you're going to see it looks like almost like brush strokes. Having said that though, we're not done. So I'm making my clouds by just tapping in some of this blue. I don't want to get rid of the cool parts, but I don't want it all to just look like blob. Because you know what? My husband would say, doesn't look like a cloud. Oh yeah, he's done that. And I'm like, what do you mean? But then he tells me and I'm cool with it. Right, so I have like gloobs of paint right here. I can take it off that way, or I can take a little bit off with one of these little knives here. Why would you do that? I mean, it looks pretty cool, but here's the thing is when you're going to tap it in, it's going to be too much paint right there. So I'll just go over the whole thing and pull off globs. And sometimes the stick itself, the skin of it sticks on there, you know, and you don't need it globby. And here's the thing, if you're going to come back in and add anything to it, you can have that feel of a stroke to it, but if it's a big glob, then it doesn't, the paint won't go on as nice as it could. So you can work with it any way you want to work with it, but there's enough paint so that you don't have to fight the globs and the blobs. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I can follow pretty close to what I have here, or I can also wing it if I have to, right? My goal for the now is to get that top part done as close as I can. And you know what, if a little bit of pink shows through, that's why you put the pink on there, is so that it, you know, if it does show through a little bit, it won't destroy the painting, and you won't have to repaint parts because it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. You know, it'll go with. So, yeah. Okay. So you see I pop it around here and I pop it around there. Now when we come back the next day, if we have to add a little blue in there, then that's what we're going to do. So we want the paint to be nice and easy to work with if we add more to it, and yet we want it to have a finished look. So if we don't have to do anything, we're happier. The less you have to fix, I think, the better. In 100 Ways from Sunday, you know, it's not so, doesn't take so long to finish the piece. The piece has a more fresh look to it, all of that, and so probably a whole bunch of other reasons. Okay, now I think I'm going to just attach this back up. That's some pretty good tape. Okay, and then I think I'm tall enough to see the rest of it here. Okay, so I can follow my picture to some degree. I'm going to just tap it, tap the edges. Now if I can get some direction, I can do that. If I get into trouble, I just let it go because I can come back with a brush. Brush it in. I got to pay some attention to this. If they're not identical, yeah, it still has the same basic feel. Shoop. Okay, so I'm bringing it down. And what's great is you to some degree you can push it and you can pull it. So push it in, pull it around, and make your design of your cloud, each one, so that it looks like it's somewhat believable, even though we all can see that it's, you know, paint. We want that too. It's a funny combination. So if I like that little pink spot, leave it, because it'll be something that will carry. Now, so for example, you got your composition, and what you're trying to do when you're getting it to the finishing point is you're trying to get it so that there are little spots without being too noticeable, too obnoxious, you know, that catch you. And so it should catch you, or catch you, because then you don't end up going out of the picture, even though it has a tendency of looking, very, I don't know. It would be easy to end up sending the viewer right out of the picture. So you don't really want that. You want to get their attention, keep their attention. You want to be very brazen about it in a subtle sort of way. And yeah, I got that. So now up in here, this cloud is got darkers under it. And so to bring it on home, I can add more to the lightness later. But this is a cloud. Okay, so I want to get that main shape in there. And I want to keep it going around. I don't need to worry about whether it's perfectly bright light, because I can add to that. But what I'm trying to do is set up the other colors behind it. So I'm setting up some of these blues and some of the darkers and getting my edge for those clouds. Now, even if I don't add anything more to the clouds, at least it still looks like a cloud. I hope that, maybe I've said that 2 or 3 times. I could say that again. Okay, so now I'm kind of going to go across, and instead of going down, I'm going to do a little down and then go across and try to, keep the same feel going across. Okay. Now I'm also keeping with, my tabbing is keeping with the direction of the energy, direction of these clouds to some degree. That gives you, I don't know, a sense of joy, I guess. Okay, so these guys are different. And tap you in. So you don't need to suck the life out of it by over tapping it, but you do that by hitting some of the edges. And then once you've done it a few times, you realize that, okay, I'm going to be coming back in here anyway. Probably have to take a day or two for it to cure out a little bit, and then come back in carefully. So it's not, you're not bound to having to finish it in one day unless you put that limit on yourself. The paint works wet on wet or dry on wet. And you use kind of the similar process to get to that next level. So once you get the process, put the paint down, tap it out, and then use a brush where you need to. Then you come back a few days later, you add some paint, you can add some on top. And see, this is the brilliant, okay, this is an advantage over the pastel, is because you let it cure out a little bit, you put other paint on it, and then you could pull some off without completely taking off the design or anything else. You just put some on, take some off. Now, it isn't a perfect system, because what is, right? But it'll work very well for some things, and you can reinforce it later. When we make our colors going forward, we can actually add them with a brush, and you still get this feel. Now, I always end up going, I start with a brush maybe, and then I go back to just use the stick, because it just goes over the canvas a lot easier than a brush to me. You can get a very small amount on there. You can touch it just lightly. The drawback, of course, is that it is a wider stick, so you have to finesse your way to cool lines or whatever. I see. Alright, now this guy, we can give him a little direction. Now, I'm sort of lost this whole thing. I'm not even going to fret too much about it, but if I get a little extra, I can add it a little bit. And you know what? It's you know, 5 minutes after I took this picture, it probably turned into something completely different. So it isn't as important to me as it is just the gist of the flow. I really want the flow, but when we come back in the next session, I can add that. Now I got a goob over here, so let's get some of that off. No need for it. Okay. Now you see all the little colors that are still in there. It's really sparkling. We like that. I like that. I don't know. Other people, you know, everybody's got their own opinion about everything. Word up about everything. Anyway, you know, I've had people say they like the sky to be really smooth. And, you know, I used to make the sky really smooth, and part of that was because I was doing pastel. And then I started to go a little bit of different fashion. And you know what? I like it better with it being a little bit less of that. So, yeah. Now, one of the things I got to be really careful about is sometimes I end up with a line, like this thing here looks a little bit like a line coming down here. So I have to make sure that I have a little awareness, and I can fix it, you know, obviously the next round through, but if it stands out like a sore thumb, fix it now. I'm going to come back over here. It isn't so bad if the line is coming in a direction, if that's how it was, but if it's just a blind spot, you know, this happens to me all the time. Like if I don't move a little bit, I end up with a blind spot that ends up to be a line. That's not cool. So, now as far as watching this might be a little boring, but you know, you can jump ahead if you feel bored. But sometimes people like to just see how you did that, and the one thing you leave out is probably the one thing they really wanted to see. Been there, done that, you know, been the students, and then, oh, why did they leave that out? So I'm going to offer this up, you know, pretty raw. And hopefully if you have questions or you really want to know something about what's being discussed here, you could certainly let me know, and I would certainly like to address it, or, you know, give you a better answer, or, you know, even if people wanted to do certain kinds of classes, that would be cool too. Let me jump to a different thing here. Now, when it gets down to this, we're just about, you know, it's going to take a little bit longer. Don't think it won't. But the thing about this is that if you get to the cleanup session, what happens is this is really easy stuff to clean up. We're going to probably use a brush or two, but we're going to use it like we're not loading the brush up in any way, shape, or form. We're just using it to move some paint around. Those brushes are super easy to clean. When you're using tube paint, you end up having to toil a little bit more with your brushes to get them clean. So there's that. I really like that part. And you know, you'll notice that I'm using the some people will not like it, but I'm using the toilet paper to wipe my finger off. I think I use considerably less of that. Why do I use it? Because typically we have it, right? Never ran out of toilet paper until a few weeks ago. Anyway, well, you know, as a society. So, you know, it's readily available, but it also doesn't have a lot of, doesn't have a lot of pilling. So if you had to wipe something off, you probably wouldn't, if you don't rub too hard on it, it probably will hold up, and you don't want gunk in your paint, you know. Sometimes if you use a certain kind of I don't know, fibers get in there, you know, certain materials might have lint coming out of there. My dog's hair can come on there. You know, any little thing, if you can see it before you walk away from it being, you know, and then let it cure out. You don't need it curing out in the paint. That's how that goes. So I still think that this is not using as much toilet paper as the other. Okay. And the one thing about it too is as it gets closer to the horizon, it does the same thing as the grass, right? It kind of goes horizontal on you. And if you're a little bit true to that, and there's some that goes up, it goes up a little bit. So just be true, you know, to the painting where you can. And if you want to make adjustments, you know what? You can do that. So the clouds are actually come to us in atmosphere that is in the shape of a dome. You know, that became crystal clear to me not too very long ago, and I was like, wow, it's not you're not painting like it's in a room, you know, where it goes out and up. It doesn't do that. It's a dome, and so all of this is in a dome coming up over you. So I do lose a little bit of my design for sure in this process. I do the best I can to keep as much as I can. Now see, if I push a little harder along here, the colors underneath come out. So that's really cool. I go back and forth to get it thinner, narrower, and in the long run, it saves me a lot of time, and it's easier for my brain to think through doing that. It's not that different from what I did with pastel. Okay, so some of this is going up. Okay. It does take a long time. You get involved in it and you don't realize how long it takes. But I can see that it takes a little bit of time to watch it. And I'm going to kind of come up a little bit here too. So it's got a flow. Go across and do a little blending, just a little bit. Okay, so clouds. Let's talk clouds. You're in a dome, right? Think of this. You're inside the planet. If you think of the atmosphere as being part of the planet, you know, I never really thought of it that way, and one day it just struck me. We're actually in the planet. We're in, our feet are touching ground or water, but we aren't on the planet. We're in the planet because of the atmosphere. And so these clouds are just repeating themselves a lot of times because of a lot of the similar sort of similar shaped clouds tend to ride in the various levels of the atmosphere. So when you see a similar looking cloud and it's going back, you're seeing more and more. It's going back and slightly around. You're going to see more and more of the bottoms of it. What? I know. So if you think about that we're in that dome, then it became easier for me to understand that, how clouds seem to dance and sing. And when you get towards towards the horizon from where you stand, these clouds they have a lot of, okay, as you go up in the atmosphere, right? Let's say you climb the mountain, you have less air, less junk in there. You have, it's the air doesn't have all that, I don't know how I'm saying that. But to me, as you go through, the stuff on where your eyeballs go through, if you're looking straight on the ground, it's thicker. And as you go up, you lose, oxygen and every other thing. So you're actually looking through a whole bunch of atmosphere to see here, plus all the other atmospheres going around. Now, you don't have to think about that every time, because that will make you completely nuts, but it gives you sort of a sense. All right, now we're going to hit this, let's see my time here. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to hit the top of the mountain. This is a very important line. My mountains tend to be not very sharp looking, like they aren't rugged. But, oops, bring on the picture. Okay, so I'm going with a quick snap, quick snap, quick snap, quick snap, quick snap. And that one got a little off. And quick snap. And I'm on the mountainside. I'm touching this with the mountainside. And getting this across here. And then getting it down. Okay. This guy. Okay, and then across this guy. Snap, snap, snap. And across here. And across here, and I'm barely touching over the line. I want to make that look smooth in a way. Now I'm going to go see if I can get across on a little bit on the sky side, just a snap here and there, and hit it right at an angle so it goes across, and it might actually cross into that mountain, and so I back and forth it if I need to. But I'm trying to keep the illusion of the aura. So you only have like 1 or 2 shots at this thing, because if it gets too, you're pulling paint off, see? And so you want to make sure that you're kind of aiming as close as you can. Okay, so I'm hitting my mountain a little bit again. I'm back and forthing a little bit. I don't want to get, I want it to read like it's smooth and tall mountains, and you're far away. Okay. All right. Now that you've gotten that far, okay, let's do the rest of these mountains here. So I'm going to go down, and I'm going to go back to tapping a little bit, and I can pull up some of these colors too. Now, if I go past my horizon, or my top of my mountain, I have to really make sure I got that line right. So this guy kind of try to get as much paint off as I can, because this is light, and I'm going to try to make it mountainy. So and then this guy is sort of shining this way. So I'm just following the direction, And I can go a little bit down here because I'm going to put in some tree line there. And it's going to be very small, short and all, but I really want to get the background correct so I don't have to go back and do anything more to it. I just add to it. So at this distance, most of these colors would not be really dark or light, you know, because it's a distance. So any glob of paint, you know, that's will stand out too much. You got to watch for that. Okay. Too much orange, and they mix together, you know, so you don't have that kind of trouble. Now it may occur to you to ask, why the pinky? The pinky is not as bold as the other. You know, it doesn't have as much dexterity for me. So I don't, you know, get in there and screw it up too much. This is another line, okay? You're going from mountain into field. And, you know, we're probably going to take the land parts anyway. And so you want to mellow that out just a little bit. Bring down your mountain colors just a little bit. And make sure that the top here is nice and it goes back nice and smooth in a way, because pretty soon here you're going to come up to the foreground and then you're going to go okay, so most of this, I guess I was trying to say, most of the land part's going to be hit up with a palette knife where it needs to be. And so that'll be the next step. Now this color green is, that's super easy. Now I got dog hair. Don't drop stuff into the dog hair. Okay, so this has got a little too much paint right here. Okay. And, you know, this distant color, it doesn't need all that paint right now. Because too much paint will take away the illusion of the depth. I think. Everybody's got their opinion. So it'll be okay. So I'm going to take this next group of lines, tap it. See, too much paint will make that hard to do. You're trying to kind of tap the top of the line because that's sort of grasses. Okay, and now you're going to come up, I think I come up like from the bottom to the top. Once I start seeing the grasses, and that's happening here, so I'm kind of tapping it up. I don't want to leave a whole lot of garish color because I'm going to come in with colors later. I just want to set it up. I want to get some of these pinks and yellows and greens in there and have it have an illusion, and then come in with the details. The better I do with that, I think the easier it is to come in with the knife later. I usually use a knife to put in the details because, I don't know, somebody I listened to said they got character from using the knife, and then I started using the knife, and I thought, yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. So, okay, I want to try to keep this group up here. Now the farther away I go, the less bright yellow. So if I have a bright yellow up in the front and it competes with something that would be out a ways, it's the same plant, but it'd be out a ways, then I have to tap down these up here and let these guys live a little bit. Now I don't want to have any garish colors right now because I'm going to be, well, I just said it, you need to watch that because you're coming back in. This is just to set it up. Okay, now I'm coming up here and I need to come up here too. So I see there's some purples in there. Oh no. Okay. See, this is what happens. You get any color on your hand and you're gonna make boo-boos. We don't need that kind of trouble. Okay. Now we're gonna look at this bottom here a little bit. So I'm getting my, going across one line at a time and try to get it so that as you come forward, you'll be able to make bigger spots, like bigger shadow areas, because you're going to see more in the grass. I'm coming up from the bottom to the top, bottom to the top, and then tap in the oranges. Completely missed my paper. Okay. I have a bright purple over here for some reason, so I don't want to keep it over there. I want it to have some be congruent with itself. So I'm making sure. See, remember we put all this dark colors underneath here. So if you hit it, you hit up, it'll bring some of that back in. So there's many colors, and so manipulating where those colors end up, that's going to keep your roadmap for what you're going to do the next time around. See, and then they look, you can finesse them. It's really kind of cool though, because the colors do kind of hold up underneath there. And that was sort of what I had when we were doing pastel too. You know, it had a similar way of keeping a distinct color by mixing it on the palette, sometimes it's a palette, sometimes it's even a piece of paper or something that is similar to paper. Multimedia artboard is something that I know a fellow who uses that, or did use that. I don't know if he still does, but it is more like a kind of like a paper feel to it. It's real smooth and it lets you work real easy as if you were working on a paper. Okay, we're getting there. Now just don't forget you're going to go dark up. Now dark colors have a tendency of being very manipulated by the other colors, even maybe so more than the light colors. So if you bring that up, don't leave globs, but bring it up and bring. So now we have like most of this thicker paint that's on here is kind of moved around. So now I'm going to come in and I'm going to look at this thing and see if I need to brush any of it out smoother. I might not have to, but I'm going to just try a couple of spots on here without hopefully ruining it. If I use a kind of a sable brush, it's soft, right? And so I can use the sable brush. One of the places is I take the bottom side of this and I just go smooth over it again. And I can snap it. Yeah, so I'm snapping it. Now, Okay, and I wipe it off on my thing there. And I'm going to come back over with the sky part. And you see that I'm just snapping a little bit. I'm just going from here to here, here to here, here to here. I'm not trying to make a long stroke. I'm just making a short stroke. And the reason for that is that it keeps it looking kind of snappy. Oh gosh, I make myself laugh. So no, it just makes it look a little more realistic, because you know, if it's too smooth, it doesn't have any character to it, and it doesn't look quite as realistic. But you want to be careful, like right there. Okay, so now I'm going to take maybe just a little bigger one here, and I want to take and just extremely lightly go over these lines so that they have a more realistic feel. Really, I mean, go smooth and slow. Really light, because if you push too hard on this brush, you will have like nothing. No fancy colors, no everything that you just spent all this time putting together, because you put so many colors on there, you're going to lose it. So I'm just hitting those edges really light. And yeah, go like that and see how that goes. Now I can kind of cross it up a little bit in some of these spots, just to, you know, get that cloud to look a little more realistic and not too stripy. All right. So yeah. Okay. Now from here on up, I don't want it to look too blended, because the blending of the distance is natural, normal looking, but the blending up here is not. So I'm just going to take, and I'm just going to take my pick, and I want to see if I can get this blues up into these clouds just a little bit. And maybe bring them down just a little bit too. I mean, you know, it's just trying to make a finessed little look to the sky. If you can get by without having to make any changes to it on your next go round, yay. Otherwise, you want to be able to bring it in to something that's already got the finesse. So you're only changing a few things. That's your best case scenario, I think. If you can do it all in one shot, that's great, super duper. But so I've got a little bit of blending to make that sky look a little bit cleaner. But I like the strokes in there. I just don't want them to be, to me, it's still a painting of clouds, and it needs to look like clouds and sky. So it's got to be interesting and somewhat lifelike. That's my feeling. And so I'm really going over this really light. And I'll probably take this into the living room where I have a little more natural light going on, and just double check it before I put it to the side and let it cure, because that light illuminates all the colors a little bit better. But I kind of want to, I'm just telling you that because I'm not carrying the camera out there with me. Hopefully it won't be too much to work about. Now remember, you gotta be really, really careful that you don't get you know, thinking about other things or something. All right, so now up here and here, and I got these clouds to work around. My sky, if you get too carried away you will, you know, even though it's sky, it has like, it has sort of, if you leave some of these blips of color in here, it'll be very exciting, and it'll just look very vibrant. If you get too carried away, you're going to end up with yuck. Yeah. So you want to hit it here, hit it there, hit it here, hit it there. Now way up here I'm going to use a bigger one because it would be bigger strokes, because it's, you know, you're looking at it closer up actually. And I'm just back and forthing it this way a little bit, hoping that I can. I like that purple and I like that teal together. So it's got vapors in the sky no matter what, you know, there's always something catching some other light. So I don't make them flat and smooth. You know, I've been, you know, somebody mentioned that they liked it better smooth, but you know, I just think that it's a more of a finessed look to keep it a little bit lively. And okay, down here, I'll come up here, and that is see, and you're not filling up your brush with a whole bunch of paint. You have to clean it. I clean them all the time. I clean them every time I use them. But I don't like, if you're going to use the brush to put the paint down, you fill it up so that it you load up the paint. This isn't about loading up the paint. This is just moving it around a little bit. Might have to. If you see stuff that looks a little different when we come back next time, it'll be because I worked on it a little bit. So try not to. So I'm going to take my strokes down here, try to get as much done with these mountains as possible. And all I'm going to do is work my way towards the bottom. I want it to look as, you know, relatively finished, and it'll look a lot more finished when I get that tree line in here. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to come across here, and I want to get my line in. Okay, and I want to take this next group and I'm just hitting it between, I don't have to, this guy is going to get cleared up. Okay, I don't have to, okay, and I'm going to come up here. Sometimes I don't think I actually finished that sentence. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to try to get as much details in as I can, you know, just to set it up, so that you're not going to have to think really hard about, you know, redoing anything. You're just setting it up. See, now this got a little lighter than I'd like. And the final thing I would say, when I get this quite, you know, just a little bit more done. Let's see, I have a clean one, so I'm gonna come up with this darkers and bring them up this way. I'm going to go ahead and sign it at this point, and pick a spot and sign it. And the reason I want to do that is because it'll be wet on wet and it'll be in there. Now if you come back later and you cover it up, oh well, then you sign it again. But I found that that works really pretty good. I typically sign my pieces so that it goes with the design. It doesn't interfere with the design at all. It just is, I don't want to take away from my design at all. I want to reinforce my composition, reinforce my design, not go glaring. Now, I know people who like to put like red. Red is a big color. I mean, people were kind of told that a while back, and I see people do it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The problem I have with it is I don't use a lot of red. If I don't use a lot of red in my painting, I don't want to have it standing out like a sore thumb. I've had people, I did try it, but people were like, what are you, what is that? And I'm like, that's my signature. Oh. And then I was like, okay, I'm not hiding it. I'm going to put it up into a section and pick a color where it reinforces that composition more than taking it away. Okay, so I hope you can see what I'm trying to do here. I'm just making the essence of grasses. Now I'm going to come in and reinforce it with okay, this time maybe. Yeah, that didn't. Okay, so I'm going to reinforce it with darkers and stuff next time so that the shadows are in there. But I really want this to have an essence of grasses now, and then that way I'm good as gold. Okay. Now if I step back a little bit, I kind of lost a spot there. That's okay though. I'm going to fix that next time. So, okay. So what I want to do here is that I'm going to stick a little bit of this back in, just so I can keep track of that line that I lost right in here. And what I want to do is find a spot that would be a good spot to sign the name. And I think that this is going to get a lot of color in it, and this is going to stay a little darker. So maybe I'll just put it I'll put it right down some in here. I take a thin brush. I take, let's see. I'm going to take a lighter green, maybe, and a little bit of solvent to kind of loosen it up. And then I'm going to stick it, I think I'll just stick it right in here. I don't want to hide it like I'm embarrassed or anything. I used to hide my signature, and then it's like, what's the point? You got something to say, you say it. You have every right to do what your thing is as anybody else. So let's just be real. Okay. And I am going to always put a C with a circle around it, just as a mark of copyright. That doesn't necessarily, that, you know, to fully copyright stuff, you put it in the copyright office. And the problem is, it costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. But there are some kind of laws that say that that mark shows that I'm trying to copyright it, right? So it shows some intent on my part. And people do steal people's designs too. People from other countries. I know a gal who had her design was used on products, and she had to work with companies to get that taken off. And isn't that doesn't happen every day, because guess what, it does. But they're making money off your design, and you can like if they, let's say they sell it at Amazon, they actually have a place in Amazon where you can report such things, so it happens all the time. Okay, and now I'm just going to go in here a little bit and come back with with these colors on the outside to just kind of define it. I spend a little time doing that. I'm not sure if anyone else does, but I do, because why not? Again, it's sort of just an effort to have it look decent and legible. And not stand out too much, because you don't need you don't want to spend all this time getting your composition and getting everything to feel right, and then you got a big old honking signature. This is my opinion. Doesn't really, I'm not precluding anybody from doing anything they want. Just my opinion. And, okay. All right. Well, this is just a little going down a little. I know it seems like a funny thing to spend so much time on that, but it really needs to blend in and stand out at the same time. So that's why I do it, because I never seem to get it to work otherwise. And then that will play as grass, see. Okay, so that's the end of this session, and then we're going to come back and finish it out.